Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. Irfaan Gaffar filling in for Harm and Dial today. My name is Dave Quadrelli. We've got a lot to break down today. Irf, how's the weekend?
It's good. Just, like I just put out on X, filling in the brown guy with the beard quota, just keeping Harm's seats warm until he gets back. Weekend was good, man. Out for dinner, had a nice dinner, and then watched the Masters on Sunday. You're moving. How was that?
Well, that's this week. I got a lot of stuff going on this week, but it's a busy week in Canuckland, and I'm gonna have a new set behind me on the remote shows. But we're here at the wall. No, at home. At the home. Here at the Wall Center, and I got to tell you, Irf, I got a new favorite golfer after this weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure.
His name's Rory McIlroy.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. It's not what you think.
Okay.
It's not what you think. I heard hitting a grand slam in golf is even harder to do
Yep.
than it is in baseball. But for Rory, I also hit shots into the water. I also hit shots into the bunker. I missed 5-foot putts. I was really relating to this guy on the week. It's the same reason I have a soft spot for Noah Juleson. Like, skating backwards is really hard for me.
Yeah.
So Rory McIlroy, my new favorite golfer.
Rory's, I think, a lot of people's new favorite golfers. I think watching it just as a casual sports fan, if you were, like, the amount of stress that people were going through on every single shot, like, the guy had double bogeys on his scorecard all throughout the tournament, and he still goes and wins the Masters. And just like the crying at the end, and how happy he was, it was pretty cool to see, obviously, the grand slam, then congratulated by everyone. But like, as I put, like, the internet was ready for Rory to win. Like, Nike unloaded its clip, like PGA, the Masters, everyone had everything available for when Rory won. So it was good to see. It was fun to watch.
Now, I didn't know this, so I'm not a huge golf fan, but I didn't know he was like able to win the Grand Slam by the time he was like 20.
Yeah, I know. It was
21
taking
or
him
something.
forever.
If you're that close, like
well, look at a guy like Jordan Spieth, won all those tournaments young, and now can barely make some cuts in some of these majors.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
like, it's so crazy.
Golf's a tough sport.
Get up back on the saddle, though. Like, that's the human element of sports. That's why we love sports, right? It's like the human element of, okay, this is a big moment. Are you going to rise to the occasion? Like, what's going to happen in this big moment? And for Rory, like, again, not a massive golf fan, but historically, it's been the moment has owned him. But that didn't happen yesterday.
Well, I mean, it kind of did on 18 before they went to the playoff. He had a chance to end it.
Both things happened. Both things happened.
Like,
somehow.
It was the most insane thing ever. But I mean, like, again, like you said, this is the reason why we watch sports. Sports, in my opinion, the best reality TV there ever will be. Yeah, it was fun. It's fun to watch.
No more on golf. Like, there's just no notes. It was a great Masters. I don't watch the Masters all the time, but everyone I knew told me to put it on immediately to start watching that. I had a couple friends over for a barbecue that night. Everybody was late because we were all watching the Masters, and it was just in the group chat. I said, I'm like, everybody can just be late. Everybody finish watching the Masters and then get over here.
That was great.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Not the only big news of the day. NIIKITA Tolopilo's making his NHL debut, folks. Jacob, hit the air horn. NIIKITA Tolopilo makes his NHL debut. What did I say? I've been saying it and it feels weird, no offense, that you're in this seat instead of Harm, because I've been saying this to Harman for months. I've been saying it to him for months. Fair. That NIIKITA Tolopilo's got to get a start. You got to get a look at him. He absolutely deserves it. This is not a pity NHL start. It's this guy is putting in the work in Abbotsford. Let's not forget, when he came to the Canucks, he was the best goalie in either the Allsvenskan or SHL. I can't remember which one, but he was one of those Swedish leagues. He was the best goalie in that league, and he deserves this shot. Again, the guy's, what is he, 25? 24? Well, either 25 or 24. I'm going to figure all this information out right now because this is my guy. 25. Happy birthday, NIIKITA Tolopilo, who turned 25 last week. He makes his NHL debut. He absolutely earned this shot, is what I'm trying to say. And with all the uncertainty surrounding Archer Shilovs, I'm not saying that they're going to go into the summer and say, oh, one great start from NIIKITA Tolopilo against the San Jose Sharks. We can trade Thatcher Demko in the offseason and feel great about it because we got Lankin and Tolopilo. I'm not saying that's going to happen. But what I am saying is that you need to get a look at this guy and at least know where he slides in on your depth chart. And I personally believe that to be ahead of Archer Shilovs heading into next year.
I think there are other people in the organization that do believe that as well. The depth chart of goaltenders here with NIIKITA Tolopilo. Great for him to make his NHL debut. Also, Kudratsev is also making his
him
NHL
too.
debut
Yeah.
tonight for the Vancouver Canucks. So a couple rookie laps you'll probably see before
unless Kevin Lankinen hops out ahead of them and does it for them, like he did to Ty Mueller.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I think they'll give him the moment here. But look, good for him. Deserved, like you said. Has been putting in the work. Has been a guy that's been leaned upon. Is a guy that, by all accounts, you talk to Manny Malhotra, you speak to people down in Abbotsford, you even speak to people around the league that look at the Canucks and look at their goaltending depth, and they look at this kid and say, he's going to be good. He's going to play in the NHL. He's going to play meaningful games, and he's going to help this team get to the next level where it wants to be. Now, for the Vancouver Canucks standpoint, for fans watching this and listening to it, don't know the health status ever really of Thatcher Demko.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Lankinen just signed an extension for $25.5 million. You just mentioned Arthur Shilovs, and is he going to be the guy, or what kind of guy is he going to be here for the Canucks?
Mm-hmm.
This is a good news story. This is a good organizational news story. I will, however, say this. It is a pity start.
No.
They're not in the playoffs. If they were in the playoffs and they were making the playoff squads, there is no chance that he would be starting this hockey game.
That's not how I define a pity start.
What do you define a pity start as?
Don't make me name names.
Okay.
We've seen pity starts over the years. We've seen that, but
it's a start. It's not a regular start. And don't get me wrong. Great for him. His family's going to love it. Both players. But for people that watch this team consistently and have been throughout the ups and downs of this organization, guys making their NHL debut for this team usually come at the end of the year when they're not in a playoff spot.
Sure.
But does he deserve it? Absolutely.
That's what I was trying to say.
Could it have happened earlier in the season? I'm not entirely sure.
I think so.
Okay.
I think, and the thing is, I know you don't listen to every episode of Canucks Convo, but I have been saying for a while, especially when Shilovs was still getting games, I was saying, give TOLOPILO a start. At worst, they're on the same level. At best, TOLOPILO's better than Shilovs. Give him that start. Because that's the thing. I've been saying this even last year and this year. These two goaltenders were at the same level in terms of playing ability at the AHL. It was a pretty serious 1A, 1B situation down in Abbotsford where there wasn't really one guy who is clearly better than the others. You look at Spencer Martin, for example, right? When they had those three goalies down there, in Martin, in Shilovs, and DiPietro, and all three guys were down there, it was clear that Spencer Martin was the better guy out of that bunch. So, of course, he's the one that gets the NHL opportunities. My point, and I don't know how I've talked about this for 5 minutes now, my point is that TOLOPILO and Shilovs have been at that same level for really the past 2 seasons. And yeah, Shilovs got the shot in the playoffs and he was a great story. So obviously he gets the shot to start the regular season with the Canucks. But once it was clear that that wasn't going to happen, TOLOPILO was the guy that should have gotten the look, in my view. And again, does this matter? No, it doesn't matter a ton. I'm just excited NIIKITA TOLOPILO is making his NHL start.
Yeah. And Canucks fans should be too. It's a look into what could be in the next few years, right? Yeah. And look, if he goes in and he proves to have a great outing, good for him. If he goes in and gets lit up, that's what happens, and kind of back to the drawing board. But I do definitely think that I agree with you, deserves the start, and it should be fun to watch.
Yeah, Canucks Sharks tonight, but we still have to talk about Canucks Wild. That was from the weekend. Well, we got to talk about one thing from that game, literally just one thing. But before we do that, I want to mention our Super Chat charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show? Hit us with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Okay, Wild, Canucks, there's one part of this game that people are talking about, and we're going to continue that conversation.
Okay.
Yakov Trenin, Derek Forbert. Trenin targeting Quinn Hughes a bit. Derek Forbert drops the gloves with Trenin. We have the video here, and for those on podcast, I'm sure you've seen it. Forbert feeds him a really nice uppercut, loses his balance, goes down. The linesman jumps in, and that's a very key part of this. The linesman comes in and pins Forbert's arms down, and again, he's not trying to give Trenin a free shot. He's trying to break up the fight. He gets in, and all he ends up doing is making it so that Forbert cannot physically defend himself, and Trenin reloads his balance and feeds Forbert with a right hand that is so dirty. Again, has to reach under the official to do it. Hits him. What was it? Broken orbital bone for him?
Yeah.
Broken orbital bone for Derek Forbert. He's out for the rest of the season. All 2 games. But that's not what this is about. It's not about, it's just 2 games. This is a guy going into UFA that is now going to have his off-season training just messed with. It's just unbelievable. I take really, really big issue with this. Should have been a suspension.
I agree. So does Derek Forbert's agent Ben Hankinson, tweeted on April 13th. No respect, cheap shot while Forbert was down on the ice.
Garbage.
Dirty play.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Derek Forbert, I believe, is having surgery to repair the orbital bone here in the next little while. So we're definitely all have to keep an eye on that in his timeline. And like you mentioned, pending UFA. That's why the agent's pissed off. That's why everyone is angry about it. And I think for a big part of it, like Derek Forbert has meant a lot to this team. Now, look, there's 2 games left. Maybe Forbert wasn't going to get in any of them just because of guys making their debuts and things like that. But it's the play. I think that's what's pissing a lot of people off. And I think there's 2 ways to look at it. One, cheap shot. And then you hear other people talking about it where people that, have been a part of the National Hockey League and they're fighters or they're quote unquote enforcers saying that if the referee didn't jump on Forbert, he could have had a chance to defend himself. That doesn't matter. You can't hit a guy when he's down.
But the ref did jump on him.
That's what I mean. So if the ref didn't, that's what the argument for is the other side. Forbert might have had a chance to go like that. Ref did. It happened. You don't throw a punch when a guy's down. You just don't do that.
No.
It was a cheap shot. Should have been a suspension.
Yeah. Agreed. Just that bothers me a lot. LC250 asked this. I don't know the answer to this, so maybe you do. He asked, is a broken orbital bone the same injury as Manny Malhotra's eye injury? The orbital bone is around the eye. I'm worried about Forbert's career. Do we know what happened to Manny? Like what it was that he actually had?
I don't think it was. I think.
Well, while you look that up, I'll get to this super chat from Adam Voth, who said, I got you, Quads. And he gave a $2 donation to the BC Mental Health Foundation. So we really appreciate that.
Manny Malhotra. It doesn't really say what exactly the injury was. He was hit in the eye. Struck in the eye by a deflected puck from Eric Johnson. Immediately left the ice and underwent surgery the next day. And so orbital bone is not your eye.
Yeah. He did not break his orbital bone.
No.
Yeah.
Anyways, but really bad for Forbert.
Really bad.
Trenton should have been suspended. I do agree with that. And I think that you're going to see people in the next day or two come with a lot of different takes about this, right? I think that there's people that look at it and say, absolutely, suspension, 100% shot, 100% it was a cheap shot, dirty, which I think we can all agree with.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think there are arguments to be made. If the linesman didn't jump in or the referee didn't jump on him, then he would have had a chance to defend himself.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. End play result, Derek Forbert's having surgery.
That's how it ends. Okay, we've got a game tonight. Let's bring in Jeff Patterson. We got a couple quotes from Rick Tocchet that we're going to get to, but I want to bring in Jeff. Let's bring in Jeff, who's brought to you by Pacific Toyota Dealers. We want to tell you about the 100% electric Toyota BZ4X, an SUV packed with plenty of space. The BZ4X can handle any terrain and can take you from the city to the slopes. It's backed by the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're driving a Toyota, and if you're driving a BZ4X, you can get access to HOV lanes even if you're driving alone. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives, and now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Let's bring him in. Jeff Paterson. Jeff joins us now. Jeff, how was your weekend? Did you get to watch right?
Can Jeff not hear us here?
No, now I can. All right. I'm not sure what happened there. Little
Jeff, wait. Let me repeat the joke. So obviously Rory won the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
I asked you if you saw the big fight, Trenton and Forbert.
Oh,
so you heard my joke.
I did. I was hosting Rinkwide on Saturday. So yeah, I was paying a little bit of attention to the hockey game. I feel like I'm watching the Chicago Blackhawks as I look at you two guys there. Maybe it's the Carolina Hurricanes. Irf should be wearing yellow though, and then it would be like ketchup and mustard. That would be anyways, yes, I watched a hockey fight on Saturday and I watched a lot of golf. I will say this. I did not expect for the life of me when I woke up on Sunday morning to expect to get into a Twitter battle with Chris Pronger on Sunday afternoon. Yes, that Chris Pronger who took exception to my tweet earlier in the day suggesting that, the safety of Derek Forbert probably isn't taken into account by the Department of Player Safety. And I'd sort of forgotten that Chris worked for the National Hockey League for a little while there after his playing days. So he was sticking up for the Department of Player Safety in the league. And again, I'm with you guys. Not that a fine or a suspension means anything to Derek Forbert, who needs surgical repair. But if you are the league and you want to set a deterrent, not just to Yakov Trenin, but the rest of the players in this 700-person fraternity, then put a mark on his file. Put him on record with some sort of supplementary discipline so that the next time he's in a fight like that, maybe he thinks twice, or maybe other guys who have a player in a vulnerable position, maybe they think twice as well. So it just sucks for Forbert at the end of a tough season for him, losing his father, injured and missing 6 weeks before Christmas. And it's been pretty good for the Vancouver Canucks, given the expectations of a depth defenseman, the penalty kill, and the role that he plays there. So, I feel bad for Derek Forbert, obviously, trying to stick up for Quinn Hughes and all the, how much have we all heard on these shows, guys, in the chats all season long? Like, where's the toughness, team toughness? Who's sticking up for Quinn? Derek Forbert tries to do that, and look what happens the way his season ends.
And we got a super chat, so I want to read it. It's from SkyTraining Canuck Elfrin, who came to the watch party at Greta. He said, why do you think Parros didn't suspend Dickinson and Trennan? Intentional or not, 2 Canucks are injured. George Parros doing a clown job. Not even funny. I didn't catch this Twitter thread with you and Pronger. What was I'm assuming you were talking about should have been.
Yeah, my initial tweet was just that, look, the safety part of the Department of Player Safety, they're supposed to be looking out for the health and well-being of all of their players. And I don't think that they do right by a guy like Derek Forbert here. I certainly didn't include Chris in the tweet, but it is a public forum, and I guess he was doing some scrolling and some searching, or who knows if how it was brought to his attention, but he rolled into my mentions that as Rory was playing about the 13th or 14th hole. And so then I was I was multitasking. I was watching golf and I was dealing with Chris Pronger. And anyways, so we agreed to disagree. But look, like, there was inherent risk when you drop the gloves and get in a hockey fight. And I think Derek Forbert would be the first to tell you that. But then we hear about the code, and I come back to this notion of, like, the league has to look after its players. If it wants to get that kind of nonsense and garbage out of the game, then take action. And the craziest part in all of this is that Yakov Trenin was assessed an aggressor penalty. Like, we never see the aggressor penalty applied, but it's when a guy continues a fight when another player is in a vulnerable position. Like, it's there in the rule books, but also in the rule books, the fact that you have to get a third aggressor penalty in the same season before supplemental discipline. Like, how crazy is that? Amend the rule book. Aggressor is so far above and beyond the normal penalty applied in a fight that, like, if it's slapped on a player in a game, then it should go directly to the desk of the Department of Player Safety, and there should be some sort of follow-up. So, again, there's a lot of things that don't make a ton of sense when it comes to the National Hockey League, the rule book, and the way that they apply it. And just add this to that list.
100%. And I think a little bit of it when you look at it too. I mean, I say this in jest a little bit. Principal point of contact was the head, and it was intent to injure. So there's definitely that. Jeff, moving on to tonight, a couple guys making their NHL debuts. Canucks fans, especially the guy sitting beside me, is very excited about NIIKITA TOLOPILO. But I ask you, who are you more interested to watch here tonight? TOLOPILO or Kudryavtsev?
I think TOLOPILO, he's sort of an intriguing character. Yeah, take your victory lap there, Dave. Look, he's a big dude. Not that pretty much every goaltender in the National Hockey League, the little guys are the ones that stand out. But he's 6'6", and he looks every part of it. He's got the pinstripe pads, so I like those. And he's had a decent season down in Abbotsford, and I'm kind of curious how they handle their goaltending as they go to the playoffs. Obviously, Artur Silovs is there as well, but I think that at times TOLOPILO has wrestled away that starter's position from Artur Silovs, who's got the NHL resume, or at least a more padded NHL resume. So great opportunity. I was having some flashbacks to Mikey DiPietro getting thrown in against the San Jose Sharks.
You remember that one?
Different time, different Sharks, obviously. And so I like TOLOPILO's chances against the last place team in the National Hockey League, although the Sharks were game, but they played last night too. So this is back-to-back for them. It's kind of funny, just a statistical quirk here, but this is the fourth and final meeting of the year between these teams. Sharks have used 4 different starting goaltenders. Canucks will have used 3 now. So 7 different goaltenders in this season series. And we'll see how things shake down. And that's not to disrespect Kudryavtsev, who has a meteoric rise from a 7th round pick 2 years ago to making his National Hockey League debut. I had a chance to talk to him briefly. He sounded pretty excited, tried to remain pretty calm. I think it helps that there are so many Abbotsford guys up in the NHL lineup now that it's almost like walking into the Abbotsford lineup. But, undersized a little bit by NHL standards for a defenseman, but, decent point production, 26 points down in Abbey in his first year as a professional. And so, it was an optional morning skate. They didn't really work on a whole lot, guys, basically just kind of getting a sweat on. So, I want to, I remember from training camp, but I want to see, his skating, obviously. I think that's one of his strong suits here. And I want to see a little bit of it's the poise that you expect. There's going to be some nerves, clearly, for a guy making his NHL debut, even if there aren't stakes in the game here. But I just, I hope that he can settle in. Look, Rick Tocchet wasn't sure how they were going to deploy their defensemen. They've got DPD, they've got Mancini, and now they've got Kudratsev. I mean, they got 3 really young guys. So it's probably going to be Quinn and a variety of the other guys. So obviously, Hronek and Marcus Patterson will be the defensemen. But so I am kind of curious to see how they roll out the young guys. And Rick Tocchet said, he's here. We're going to play him. It's not like we're going to give him 6 minutes of ice time. We've got him here. Why not see what this guy can do?
I've asked players this in the past about meaningless hockey, and whether that's in the preseason or, Jeff, here we are at the tail end of the season. So I guess from a standpoint, an organizational standpoint, from, I guess, a coaching standpoint, what do these last 2 games mean? And can you tell, if anything, about any one? I've always said when we do rink wide, it's all about auditions and things like that. But what's your take on the final 2 here?
Well, I think Rick Tocchet was quite pissed off at the way the game went on Saturday night with a 2-0 lead in the third period and ultimately another overtime loss. And I wrote a column at Canucks Army this morning, basically headline, lost leads sort of have told the tale of this lost season. And as I went through the research for the column, I had even forgotten sort of how many multi-goal leads had got away from the Vancouver Canucks. And so after practice yesterday and again after the morning skate, Rick Tocchet still kind of harping on the things that they didn't do well enough. And so with 2 games to go, you could understand if the coach was sort of putting his feet up and really didn't have expectations going up against the last place team in the National Hockey League. But Tocchet this morning was talking about how he wants to see his guys in the neutral zone, making plays at the offensive line and not just chipping the puck in. And, that's been a constant theme all season long. But at his post-game remarks at the podium on Saturday, he kept saying there were plays to be made there, and we didn't. And I asked him to sort of expand on that yesterday after practice, whether it was plays in the defensive zone to alleviate pressure or whether it was plays further up the ice to get the puck into the Minnesota zone and then, try to attack and spend more time in the offensive zone. And he said it was more of the latter, that he just thought guys kind of were taking the easy way out in the neutral zone, didn't want the puck. And so, he said they did a video session on all of that this morning. So he's coaching to the bitter end here. I thought it was interesting, and I know that you guys are going to talk a little bit more about some of the things he said after practice yesterday, but, he sounded very much like a guy who is all in on returning to coach this hockey team. Just his answers yesterday when he was talking about setting standards for training camp and, the expectations that they're going to have on guys over the summer. Rick didn't sound like a guy that was 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door kind of thing. I mean, he sounded all in to be the man in charge for next season. So I thought that was sort of an interesting take as well, just from the things that he said and the way that he said them after practice on Sunday.
Is he the right man for this job, Jeff?
I think the organization thinks so. And I know that there's a large component of the fan base, obviously, that hasn't enjoyed a lot of the chip and chase and the low scoring games. That said, in the last month, the Canucks have been one of the highest scoring teams in the National Hockey League. They've rediscovered their offense. We're not hearing that nearly as much about Rick Tocchet. So, it's not going to please everybody, but I'm not sure that a 4th head coach in 4 years for this group is the answer either. In fact, I know that that's not the answer. So, people weren't complaining about him and his systems last year when this team was going off and winning 50 games. I think if they can give him better personnel to work with, and that's going to be the challenge, obviously, for management here in the offseason, then I would assume that Rick Tocchet's back. I mean, it does sound like it's just a negotiation right now that the Canucks have to be willing to meet his price. And if they are, he'll be the coach. And if they're not, then I suppose they'll have to look at a plan B here. But I'm fully anticipating that he will be the head coach. And if he's back, then the Canucks must believe that he is the right man for the job.
Last thing for me, Jeff. what you brought up the comments that we're going to play in a second, but this quote from Talkit on Elias Patterson about him not playing and getting a jump start in his training, he used the word get his body in shape. Like the early off season, quote unquote, is a chance for him to get his body in shape. Am I reading into that differently than I should be?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, the second part of that quote talked about how there are standards in the organization that Patterson has to meet. And I don't even think you have to read too far between the lines. There has been a suggestion over the course of this season that fitness at training camp was an issue. And of course, the knee issue and his ability to train fully, I think, played into that. But no, I think that the message has been delivered pretty clearly. And there isn't a whole lot of gray area there. I think that the hockey club felt that that was one of the reasons, coming off a disappointing stretch run and obviously the playoffs as well. And then he had the offseason. And, Rick Tocchet also talked about how, the organization can help Patterson with his offseason training. And I think that was a suggestion that maybe, they want to be a little more hands-on, that they don't like necessarily whatever it was that he did last year. But he has to know too. Like with the money they're paying him, the expectations, the disappointment of this year, it is a massive offseason, and he has to come back ready to hit the ground running. So when I asked Rick Tocchet yesterday if this injury that has ended his season now, is it going to limit his ability to start training right away? Tocchet said no, that they didn't think that was going to be any kind of issue here. So I guess time will tell on that front, but it's the same thing with Thatcher Demko too. Because he was asked today, Rick was by Farhan, about, we generally don't see an illness end a player's season. We don't see guys shut down due to illness. Is there more going on there? And Rick Tocchet bluntly said no, that there's just no point in Thatcher Demko risking injury in these final two games so that he can go into the offseason as healthy as possible and then have a full run over the summer to get dialed back in and come back to camp, hopefully better than ever. So that was the reasoning the coach gave for Thatcher Demko not playing either of these final two games.
Jeff, I apologize. I know I said last one for me, but as you know, I have a lot to say. End of season media avails. This is our last chance to talk to you before that. We'll talk to you after it, of course, next week. But end of season media avails this week. Players, management, number one thing you want to hear about.
Practice facility? No. That question's coming though, right? Like that's the surest bet going. Look, I hope that Elias Pettersson's willing to open up a little bit. He did a month ago before the injury, but I think hopefully he recognizes that, this will be the last chance for a while, and that he's going to face some questions, and I hope that he's willing to share. And I hope Thatcher Demko, who, back in training camp in Penticton, stood in there and gave us a ton of time and sort of really pulled back the curtain a little bit about the injury. I hope he's willing to sort of detail a little bit more about, the injury that kept him out after the Four Nations break there, and just sort of his plans moving into the summer here, into the final year of his contract. Obviously, Brock Besser, this could be the farewell for him. So we saw him emotional a couple of years ago at the podium with his father late stages of his life, and we know that Brock can be emotional, and I kind of wonder how that's all going to play out. And then for Patrick Allvin, I hope that there's some ownership of the shortcomings of the front office. When you think of the defense core that started the season and the howls in this marketplace that the defense wasn't good enough, and yes, they've overhauled it in season, but one of the reasons they're not going to the playoffs is that they went far too long with the defense core that they started the year with. So I'm kind of curious to hear. Remember last year they lose in Game 7 of the second round, and Patrick Allvin's punching the table about being disappointed and not even just mad about being out of the playoffs after 2 rounds. Well, here there's no playoffs at all. So kind of curious, just the tone. And obviously the future of the head coach will be a big part of that. And I would imagine they'll probably side by side as they address the media. So we'll sort of see how that dynamic goes and how willing Patrick Allvin is to speak to Rick's future. But there's so many questions, and hopefully there's enough time to get into a lot of the issues, because we know that there are many questions facing this organization. And Patrick Allvin's the guy with his hand on the wheel, and he's got to have a big summer like his players if this Canuck team is going to move forward here and be a playoff contender next season.
Jeff, good stuff as always. Thanks for taking the time.
All right, guys. Thanks.
There he is.
See you tonight, Jeff.
Yes, you will.
the host of Rinkwide Vancouver, Jeff Paterson, with the other host of Rinkwide Vancouver, Irfaan Gaffar. Are you closing out the season with them? Final 2 games?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think we might do a long show on Wednesday. I think.
Why?
Well, I'll kind of get into some stuff.
Season
final show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys? Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
why?
Well, I thought you'd do a season wrap show. You know.
We might after Vails. Who knows? But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff from
This
Jeff,
guy. Why?
as always. You know what I want to hear at end of season avails, Irf?
What?
Jim Rutherford's voice.
Why? Again.
Am I crazy for saying that Jim Rutherford, the president of hockey operations, should probably do media at the start and end of the season? We already checked one box. He did start of the season. Ideally, you hear from him more, but let's hear from him. Let's hear from him at least.
I think you've heard him at points through various members of people that he will talk to.
That doesn't count.
And there's a reason. That's probably a reason why he's not in front of the camera much.
Okay. Okay. Am I supposed to ask Elliot Friedman for a practice facility update?
No, but a practice facility question to Jim Rutherford can turn into a completely different topic. Remember a couple years ago? I think it was in January when he went on the State of the League. It was a press conference or whatever, and he just unloaded on absolutely everything wrong with his organization.
And I'm sorry, you're saying this is a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing at all, but I think that there's a reason organizationally why they don't put him in front of the camera like that.
So
I agree. More Jim is better, but Patrick Alvin is the general manager of this team.
Yeah, and Jim Rutherford's his boss, the president, who has final say on everything.
Yeah, but Patrick Alvin is the one that's also making the day-to-day decisions. I mean, some people think it's Jim Rutherford, but I
have no interest in getting into that. I have no interest in getting into that. But
you're gonna hear from him. Probably.
Yeah,
I would assume you would.
Okay, that's all I'm saying is I want to hear from him.
Okay,
I want to hear from Jim. I also like Jim Rutherford. Can I just say that? Am I allowed to say that? I like when he talks. He says things.
Well, it's because he says things honestly and open. Yeah. And
I'm not saying I don't like Patrick Alvin. I just like Jim Rutherford. I like Jim Rutherford as
I think as fans, we kind of get into looking at players and coaches and management being a little bit robotic in what they say and how they portray different messages to the media. And I think Jim Rutherford has been around this for a hell of a long time. Obviously longer than you and I have been alive. He's definitely been at this for a while, and he's seen some shit. So for him to go out there and kind of go into, his arsenal of what he's seen in his career with guys like Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and winning, and before that, just so many experiences and things that you want to hear from him about what he really thinks is can make a winning team. And essentially that's what the goal is here in Vancouver. I agree with you. We should hear from him more often.
Yeah. I just want to hear from him this weekend. Just ask him how he's doing.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave Guidrelli, Canucks Army. Jim, how you doing? How you feeling today?
Well, Dave, let me tell you.
Not good.
How much time do you got?
Yeah, he turned that into a whole State of the League answer. Okay. Our thanks again to Jeff Patterson for joining us. Jacob, we talked about this Talkit clip. Can we play this? This was Talkit on Patterson from the weekend. I found it interesting. It was covered in Scenes from Canucks Practice over at CanucksArmy.com, but people might have missed it. So let's play this clip.
There's no point even playing him. I'd rather him get a jump start on his training. Why go into, he tries to grind a game here for what? I think it's important that, he gets a running start here, feels good about himself, and get his body in shape and feel good about himself.
What about his training? Patrick talked about maybe spending more time in Vancouver. I mean, I can understand some of the training aspects and the gym and everything, but then there's the ice component. You guys don't have a practice facility. What do you want to see in that respect?
Well, I think when you go in these situations, you really want to get your training dialed in. Like example, Thatcher Demko. He's almost got his training to like science, to a day. This week I'm doing this. This week I'm going to take off. This week, so he knows what he's doing every week. He's got a good team together. And I think we're just trying to understand Petey for his training the last couple of years. Maybe we can help him. But listen, we can't tell him what to do. But there is going to be some standards that we all have to come into camp with. So whatever you're going to do, you're going to make sure that those standards are withheld. Because, that's just the way it is.
That was right. You definitely don't have to read between the lines at all.
No. Sounds like a guy that knows he's back. Sounds like a guy that is speaking directly to his star player, a guy that gets paid the most money on the team, nearly the most in the NHL, a big part of the organization moving forward, and a guy that is also the general manager said it too as well. They want him to stay here, or at least part of his summer here, to work with the staff here. They can find ice. The notion that there's no practice facility or whatever, they're the Vancouver Canucks. They can find ice for Elias Patterson to go skate on.
Mm-hmm.
This is a decision that Elias Patterson is going to have to make on his own. How big of a commitment does he have to being here in Vancouver and working with the staff here and, trying to get better? Or does he trust the people that he works with in Sweden or wherever he is in the summer for the most part? There's no excuse for him to go into the summer and not be in peak physical condition next year. This is the biggest summer of Elias Pettersson's career. It's not even close. And if he's not a guy next season that it goes back to 90 to 100 points and leads this team to the playoffs, there are going to be some large question marks, as there already are right now, on the commitment from the Vancouver Canucks to this player. Like, I don't see how there's a way about it. I think that, we talked about this before the season. It could be an off year, but it's all about Elias Pettersson in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had an off year. He didn't play. He got hurt, and now they're not going to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So next year, it has to be the year quads. Like, it really does. And it's regular season that matters, and it's playoffs. There's going to be a lot of pressure on this kid, and, embrace the hard or embrace the pressure. Pressure meets pressure, whatever the hell the slogan is sometimes with the Vancouver Canucks. But it is going to be that for this player. It really is.
I bring up another conversation we had earlier this season.
Okay.
When JT Miller was traded,
yeah,
a big idea was, okay, we got rid of JT Miller. Now we have a few months sample size of what you look like without JT Miller. Because remember, when he was gone for those 10 games, when Miller was gone for those 10 games, Patterson put up 15 points. People, there it is. Take out Miller, no problem. That didn't really happen. Patterson had some good stretches along the way, but never really got back to that level of like, yeah, I'm an excellent superstar in this league. I'm going to be your star player. You can count on me. Like, I don't think the Canucks learned that. And at the time, we were saying, well, the Canucks are going to use this as a chance to see what Patterson looks like without Miller. And if that fixes everything, then there's no question they don't have to trade him ahead of this July 1st deadline when a no movement clause kicks in on his contract. And really, they are locked in to Elias Patterson on July 1st. That didn't happen. And I'm not saying they need to trade Patterson, but like, do you think this team is still thinking about it where they look at that deadline and say, we still have some stuff to think about? Like, to me, I think they look at it, and I don't think these quotes about fitness and staying in Vancouver and commitment level, I don't think those are a mistake. How does Patterson respond to them? What decisions does he make for his offseason in the exit avails? Patrick Allvin said that's going to be a big topic in their exit avail is, what is your plan this summer?
That's the biggest thing. It's what are you going to do for us?
Mm-hmm.
We've gone out and given you a boatload of cash.
Yep.
And what are you going to do for us? Where's the return on our investment to you? And I think that that's why a lot of the fan base is frustrated with this player, because before he got the contract, he was a 100-point player.
Mm-hmm.
He was a guy that was feared, on the power play against other teams in the National Hockey League. But dude got what he wanted this season. Like, they gave him better players to play with. They signed Jake DeBrusk, Daniel Sprong, the guy that he's known and is close with him. And then you get the guy you don't like traded. Like, you've been given every opportunity here to succeed and do well. Now, injuries, yes, they happen. I 100% get it. But for the coach to come out and say that injuries aren't going to limit what he does this summer, that's pretty big. Like, the knee tendonitis, I get it. Kind of maybe, didn't help him so much last season in the summer for his training. But his fitness testing wasn't good when he came into the season. I mean, I think that's known. It's been reported out there. There are guys on the team that definitely know that. And I think the coach openly said it early on in this season when he was asked. He wasn't asked point blank about Patterson, but he was asked about players, and everyone knew exactly who he was talking about. So yes, this is going to be a huge summer. And I agree with what Jeff said. Like, I would like to hear from Elias Pettersson. He was honest and open about how his play was before he got hurt, but how honest and open are you going to be about what this season looks like? He's going to be asked about if he's worried about getting traded. His no trade clause doesn't kick in until July 1st. The team has not made a decision one way or the other. Have teams called? Obviously after the deadline, maybe not, but there were talks around the deadline that he wasn't completely off the board.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you listen to conversations and you pick up the phone if you're Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin, if teams are calling about every player, you have conversations. It would be a monstrous trade if something did happen, but I think the level of commitment that they've shown to the player, I think they're looking for that commitment, same level of it from the player in return to the organization.
And that's what I'm saying. I think this is going to play a factor in it.
Well, that, and also, like, what are they going to do? If Brock leaves, who's your scoring winger? Ehlers probably doesn't want to play in Canada.
Mhm.
Otherwise, the deal would have been done in Winnipeg. Beyond that, Mitch Marner, I mean, are you going to take a run at him? I think it probably gets done in Toronto. Like, I really do. And if not, he's probably not coming to Vancouver. Brock's gone, so that's another guy. Kuzmenko, he's probably going to stay in LA. He's found a home there, and they're not doing that experiment again.
It's hysterical to resign.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. But like, who else are your scoring wingers? You need a scoring winger. Brock Besser scored 40 goals. Then he followed it up the next season, scoring over 20. Like, you need guys to put the puck in the net. Pius Suter can play on the wing. It's a great story. It is, but the amount of money that he's going to command this offseason, are you willing to pay a guy? And then you need a center, because you don't know what your future is. You don't know what Elias Pettersson's going to give you. You don't know the condition of Filip Chytil's health, who, by the way, I wish nothing but the best for.
Skated on the weekend. We should have mentioned
great.
that.
That is
on the
huge.
Weekend.
I know we're
Skated
talking
today
about saying
too.
some days were worse than others, but the bad days aren't that bad.
And it wasn't as bad as last year's
So
concussion.
perfect. That is great. That is great to hear. That's good for an organization and good for him on a
And he's
personal
getting the heart rate
standpoint.
up and not feeling effects. That's a
Perfect.
big part of concussion.
So good for him. But again, you just don't know.
Of course.
Right? So you probably have to go get a center too.
Yep.
And then you've molded out you kind of worked from the back front. You got your goalie situation there. Defense, you might want to add. I think they, are going to re-sign Derek Forbert.
Yeah, you either need Derek Forbert or a Derek Forbert replacement.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Derek Forbert, to be honest. And then you look to build the front. But Allvin said it's going to have to happen with a trade or some sort of free agent signings. But if you go look down the board of free agents, like, you got to go a long way.
They're going to have to get ridiculously creative.
And someone's going to get ridiculously overpaid. And who are they willing to overpay?
Sam Bennett.
Huh?
Sam Bennett.
I think that gets done in Florida.
That's true too.
I think he takes less to stay there.
That's the problem.
You got to pay the Vancouver tax, though.
Yeah.
You also have to pay the Vancouver tax here in Canada. And convincing guys to come play up here, as much as we can say Vancouver's a beautiful city, Toronto's a beautiful city, Montreal, great hockey market.
Yeah.
Canada's a different beast when it comes to a lot of these players.
You know what I've started to just, and we're going a bit over time here. We'll get to anyone else in a second. But
Yeah.
you know what I've started to think?
Sorry, you wanted to wrap by 2:45.
A guy like Garland, Demko, I mean, Höglander's probably a little bit easy and not in that same conversation. A guy you're not expecting is going to get traded this offseason.
100%.
Because they have to get creative, and you look at the paths that they can take, and I've just, like, it's not going to get leaked. It's just going to come out of nowhere because they're not it's not a Carson Sue situation where they send a fax to everybody and say,
He's available.
Please trade for him. It's going to be one of these things that just comes out of nowhere, and it's gonna catch people off guard.
Like, I look at their team in totality and even prospects and things like that. Your most tradable asset, and people are going to hate me for saying this, is probably DPD.
Most tradable in what sense? A combination of what he brings to your team and what he's going
and
to
what
get on
you
the open
have
market?
coming in the pipeline defensively.
Okay.
Like, you've got some defensive depth. You really do. And it would have, and if for the Canucks to make a monstrous move and to get a player of significance in a trade, every team is going to want something in return right away.
Yeah.
And DPD 6'1", 280, can throw him. He plays big. He's fearless. I love him. They love him. But I don't think you're trading Tom Willander.
Yeah.
I don't think you're trading Jonathan Lecker-Mackey.
Yeah.
Like, as far as like top end prospects go, I probably don't want to see it happen, but just based on the fact of like who they have and who is their most tradable they can get the most for, it's probably him.
That would immediately start you traded the wrong. Not only did you trade the wrong guy,
no matter, you're not going to win a trade here in this market, no matter what.
No, sorry. I was saying it's going to start all the jokes of you traded the wrong Elias Pettersson.
Oh yes.
At first you traded the wrong player because
Yep.
people say that about
JT,
Miller Patterson, and now it's going to be the wrong Elias Pettersson. That's what people are going to say. We had that conversation last week as well. That first round pick's as good as gone, and I think that's fine. I think if you're going to improve, you got to move the first. But anyways, we're going a bit over time. Let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our good friends. I'm wearing their hat at the Vancouver Canadians, who are back at the Nat. The home opener is tomorrow night. First pitch is at 7:05, and I say tomorrow as Tuesday, 7:05. What better way to open the season with a fireworks night? The Seas are home all week, and that includes the Friday nooner at the Net. Get your weekend started early. First pitch is at 1:05 p.m. The weekends with a White Spot Family Fun Sunday afternoon game in which the kids get to run the bases post-game. For tickets, call 604-872-5232 or check out CanadiansBaseball.com. Tom Willander's still not signed, Irf. Why is that? Like, I'm seeing all these signings happen. I'm seeing Quinn Hudson sign. I'm seeing all these players sign. We got a super chat from Adam Voth. He said, you need young players with ELCs. This would be a huge mistake.
I agree, but you also need players that can help put the puck in the net offensively.
Exactly. You need to give to get. We keep having this conversation. And I like DPD a lot. And Jax in the chat said, don't trade DPD. I'd rather they trade Mancini or Kudratsev. Yeah, that's the problem, is Kudratsev and Mancini don't have as much value as DPD. Like, that's what we're talking about here, is that DPD really has proven to be a very valuable player for the Canucks. I know it's not ideal. And I still lean toward I'd like to keep him because I do really like him.
So do I.
Yeah.
I said he was 280. He's 180.
Oh, he's not 280.
He's not LeBron James.
I didn't catch the 280 comments, actually.
Yeah,
My
Irf
bad.
got it a little bit wrong.
But Tom Willander, still not signed. What do we have here? What's going on?
It's interesting. I don't think it's for the lack of trying from the Vancouver Canucks. I think the Canucks have tried to sign this young player. I think it's a little bit weird that it hasn't happened. And now that we're here in the last 2 games, it's probably not going to happen. I'm not entirely sure he wants to go play in Abbotsford right now. Finish your school year and then see what happens next season. And I'll definitely just kind of leave it at that. Like, he's a guy where I think views himself very highly. As he should. He was a high draft pick. He was their most important prospect, basically, probably since Quinn Hughes, defensively. And I think that the Canucks have tried. I think that they wanted to get him here. They wanted to get him working with the coaches, and all of that. And he made his decision, and I think he's sticking to it.
So, does this come down to, like...
I mean, look, everything can change with one phone call. To be honest, it can, but I do not think it's for a lack of trying from the Vancouver Canucks.
So this isn't just like, oh, they're not paying him the bonuses he wants?
No, I think the Canucks were ready to bring him here. I mean, look, he's a prospect. It's a good news story.
I know.
It is fantastic publicity. You're getting your guy in contract. You take the picture from signing the contract, you put it all over your Twitter, you can get 1,000 likes. Like, it's going to be great for the Vancouver Canucks.
They're trying to sell season tickets.
Exactly.
So this is weird then.
It's a little weird. And I think from the Canucks standpoint, they also think it is a little bit weird.
Okay.
It's one that you're going to have to keep an eye on. He's got 2 full years left. Then if he wants to be then the Canucks will have to trade him as a free agent, or whatever. But I mean, that's getting way down the road. I think he does end up a Vancouver Canuck here. But it's just a very weird situation. Let's just put it at that.
Interesting. Okay. S Little Boston. Let's take a quick look at this. He just brought it up in the chat. Said, will Calgary make the playoffs? Or when's the last time you looked at the NHL standings? We used to do it on every show here, but we haven't done it recently.
Why,
NHL
the
standings
falling.
Yeah, I was pulling up the money puck odds of them making the playoffs right up until 0.2%. So Calgary Flames somehow still in that race. When you look at it right now, do you think it is the Minnesota Wild and St. Louis Blues that make it, or are the Calgary Flames going to squeak in?
I'm going to say it's the Wild and the Blues.
That's boring.
I mean, everyone's going to want anarchy and the Calgary Flames to make it, and good on them if they do. I just think it's you need a lot to go your way.
It would be absolutely insane
because they've got what? They've got 2 games left.
Yeah, do you need a lot though? Like, all they actually need
is a loss for
one of
these
these teams to lose and them to win both games, and they make the playoffs.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a lot.
Yeah, but 1 point for each of those teams. They don't even need to win the games. Minnesota or St. Louis.
St. Louis would need to win.
Would need to win.
Yeah. It's at least an interesting story in this final week. We were
it's good for and I think it's good for the NHL. And it's good for the Flames.
Absolutely.
I think the Flames have been a wild story this season. Nobody would have saw that coming.
I called it.
You called Flames playoffs?
Game 2. I did.
Well,
Harmon and I actually made a bet.
Really?
On it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It was an ill-advised bet at the time, but it worked.
You were on vibes.
I was
2
on
games
vibes.
into the season.
I was on vibes. I literally said, I'm like, I think the Flames are making the playoffs this year. Harmon,
you might have been on tilt too.
Harmon was like, be real. There's no way that's happening. And then he was bringing up point totals and everything. And I was like, dude, I'm not, I don't want to get into an analytical argument with you. I'm just telling you how I feel.
Does Wolf win the Calder if they make the playoffs?
I just got my ballot, and I don't have Wolf number 1.
Okay.
But I also don't have submitted. So if they make the playoffs, I don't know. I have Lane Hudson number 1. I think Lane Hudson was too impressive to not put first.
His brother's making his debut
Mm-hmm.
for the Edmonton Oilers.
Mm-hmm.
Demidov.
Oh, Demidov. I'm so excited about Demidov.
Did you see that stream from the airport?
Yes.
It was insane.
Me and 174,000 other people did.
It was wild.
It's so crazy.
Imagine someone back then when news cameras were at the airport when John Tortorella was getting hired by the Vancouver Canucks. There's a lot of Canuck fans that would have watched that too.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? They had cameras at the airport?
Yes.
When Torts landed?
Yes. Wow. Brings you back Shohei Ohtani. Do you have anything else you wanted to say?
It's been a pleasure, my friend.
It's always a pleasure. Love having you on the show. Thank you for filling in for Harm today. Harm and I'll be back tomorrow. No show Thursday, but we'll have a show Friday, player avails, all that sort of stuff. It's going to be a busy week, but no show Thursday. We'll kind of do our season wrap on Wednesday ahead of the Canucks final game of the season. And then, of course, we'll be back next week as well. We actually also, Jacob, did you and Harmon agree to this? I wanted to do a Saturday show. Did either of you agree?
I can do Saturday. Saturday
Did
works
Harmon
for me.
agree?
I don't think he's responded yet.
We're doing a Saturday show. I'll do it alone if Harmon can't do it. Irf will come in. That's how you want to spend your Saturday, right?
You're going to have a conversation.
Hang out with me? Okay. Well, Jacob's in. That's all I need. Saturday show. We're going to do a Saturday show, reacting to what management has to say. Okay. Bet365, bet of the day.
Demidov, point.
Ooh. I usually just stick to money lines.
Demidov, 2 shots.
Oh.
And a Kuzmenko point.
Did you just build a parlay?
In my head, dude.
Wow.
I'm psychotic. I really am. And it's not a gift. It's a curse.
Let's do Demidov 3 shots just by itself.
That's what, plus 190?
Plus 190.
Yeah, see? I
like
didn't see that.
All right. Ivan Demidov to get 3 shots at plus 190.
Against the Chicago Blackhawks, you might get 5 in his NHL debut.
Hold on. How many is 5? That's our new bet of the day.
450?
1,100.
Yeah, for him to get 5. He's probably not getting 5, but 5 is a good number to put that. Like, I would put it at 4.
5. We're hitting 5. 5, that's our bet of the day. 5 shots for Ivan Demidov in his NHL debut tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. You can get that at plus 1,100 odds over on Bet365 as Irf races to do that right now.
I got lots of time. Games don't start till 4.
Yeah, that was our Bet365 bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat-trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Irf, thank you for taking the time today. Appreciate your time. And our thanks again to Jeff Paterson for joining us. For my co-host, Irfaan Gaffar, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, and all those interns back there. We've got a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people here.
My name is Dave Quadrelli. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.